We usually picture heartbreak as something loud and messy, a violent shattering. But the reality is that the most dangerous emotional wounds don't explode. They bleed out in complete silence. In 1865, a heartbroken young writer named Sully Prudhomme captured this quiet agony. He published his debut poetry collection, pouring his romantic despair and fading youth into the pages. Deep inside that collection, titled Stances et Poèmes, sits a single haunting piece of work. It is called Vase Brisé, the Broken Vase. This one poem managed to distill his intense personal sadness into a flawless, mechanical metaphor for grief, cementing his place in literary history. Breaking through in the bustling, highly competitive literary world of 1860s Paris was notoriously difficult. It required intense, immediate validation from the right people. At a time when prominent writers were making broad, sweeping declarations about society and politics, a debut author focusing purely on introspection could easily get drowned out in the noise. But then, the highly influential French critic Charles-Augustin Sainte-Beuve read The Broken Vase. He immediately championed the young poet, launching his career practically overnight. Prudhomme's sudden ascent happened because he built a metaphor so structurally sound, so meticulously crafted, that the critics simply could not ignore it. The centerpiece of this metaphor is exactly what the title suggests: a slender, delicate crystal vase, flawlessly crafted and entirely unblemished. This object is a direct stand-in for the Parnassian ideal, the dominant French poetic movement of the era. Parnassian poets demanded absolute classical precision. They valued strict form, aesthetic restraint, and complete balance over messy emotion. Prudhomme maps these rules onto the vase. The poet must maintain a rigid exterior, holding everything together regardless of the turmoil inside. Yet Prudhomme himself was obsessed with human fragility and the chaotic inner life of the soul, subjects that threatened to break that outer shell. He realized that this strict Parnassian form offered the perfect camouflage. The more composed and flawless the outside appears, the easier it is to hide a profound, personal sorrow. The tension breaks with a single, trivial action. The poem describes a passing lady whose ornate fan lightly grazes the crystal. This gentle tap symbolizes the quiet trauma of an unhappy love affair. It is a casual, dismissible rejection, unlike a violent hammer blow. In the immediate aftermath, the vase remains standing. To anyone walking by, it looks perfectly whole and completely unaffected by the touch. But beneath that pristine surface, a microscopic fracture has taken hold. Without making a sound, that invisible crack slowly and inevitably spreads across the glass. This creeping fracture mirrors Prudhomme's own emotional deterioration. It illustrates how unrequited love and grief cannot be contained by willpower, inevitably compromising the entire structure. Eventually, the water held inside begins to seep out from the hidden wound, draining away, while the vessel stubbornly remains completely upright. The true tragedy here lies in the total isolation of the sufferer. The subject is fatally bleeding out, entirely empty, while society walks right past, seeing only unbroken crystal. This ability to wrap intense, suffocating emotional tension inside an elegant, highly controlled structure defined the rest of Prudhomme's career. Decades after he first published The Broken Vase, his lifetime of exploring the inner human condition through classical precision received the highest possible validation. In 1901, Sully Prudhomme's collective body of work earned him the very first Nobel Prize in literature. The strict rules of the Parnassian movement have long since faded into history, but this one poem continues to resonate today. It endures because Prudhomme captured a timeless psychological reality. Profound grief rarely announces itself, and the people who look the most perfectly put together are often quietly bleeding out from a crack we cannot see.